Musashi, named after the former Japanese province, was one of four planned Yamato-class battleships built for the Imperial Japanese Navy, beginning in the late 1930s. The Yamato-class ships were the heaviest and most powerfully armed battleships ever constructed, displacing almost 72,000 long tons or 73,000 tons, fully loaded and armed, with 9 460mm or 18.1-inch main guns. Their secondary armament consisted of four 155mm or 6.1-inch triple-gun turrets, formerly used by the Mogami-class cruisers. They were equipped with 6 or 7 float planes to conduct reconnaissance. Commissioned in mid-1942, Musashi was modified to serve as the flagship of the combined fleet and spent the rest of the year working up. The ship was transferred to Truk, Japan's main wartime naval base in the South Pacific Theater, in early 1943, and sorted several times that year with the fleet in unsuccessful searches for American forces. She was used to transfer forces and equipment between Japan and various occupied islands several times in 1944. Torpedoed in early 1944 by an American submarine, Musashi was forced to return to Japan for repairs, during which the Navy greatly augmented her anti-aircraft armament. She was present during the Battle of the Philippine Sea in June, but did not come in contact with American surface forces. During the Battle of Leyte Gulf, Musashi was sunk by an estimated 19 torpedo and 17 bomb hits from American carrier-based aircraft on 24 October 1944. Over half of her crew was rescued. Her wreck was located in March 2015 by a team of researchers employed by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen.
Design and description. Since the IJN anticipated it would be unable to produce as many ships as the United States, the Yamato-class ships, with their great size and heavy armament, were designed to be individually superior to American battleships. Musashi had a length of 244 meters, 800 feet 6 inches, between perpendiculars, and 263 meters, 862 feet 10 inches overall. She had a waterline beam of 38.9 meters, 127 feet 7 inches, and a draught of 10.86 meters, 35 feet 8 inches at deep load. She displaced 64,000 long tons, 65,000 tons at standard load, and 71,659 long tons, 72,809 tons at deep load. Her crew consisted of 2,500 officers and ratings in 1942 and about 2,800 in 1944. The battleship had 4 sets of compound-geared steam turbines, each of which drove one propeller shaft. The turbines were designed to produce a total of 150,000 shaft horsepower, 110,000 kilowatts, using steam provided by 12 compound water tube boilers, giving the ship a maximum speed of 27.5 knots, 50.9 kilometers per hour, 31.6 miles per hour. It had a stowage capacity of 6,300 long tons, 6,400 tons of fuel oil, giving a range of 7,200 nautical miles, 13,300 kilometers, and 8,300 miles at a speed of 16 knots, 30 kilometers per hour, 18 miles per hour.
Musashi's main battery consisted of 9 45 caliber 460mm Type 94 guns mounted in 3 triple-gun turrets, numbered from front to rear. The guns had a rate of fire of 1.5 to 2 rounds per minute. The ship's secondary battery consisted of 12 60 caliber 155mm third-year type guns mounted in 4 triple turrets, 1 each fore and aft of the superstructure, and 1 on each side amidships. These had become available once the Mogami-class cruisers were rearmed with 200mm 7.9-inch guns. Heavy anti-aircraft defense was provided by a dozen 40 caliber 127mm 5-inch Type 89 dual-purpose guns in 6 twin turrets, 3 on each side of the superstructure. Musashi also carried 36 25mm 1-inch Type 96 light anti-aircraft AA guns in 12 triple-gun mounts, all mounted on the superstructure. The ship was also provided with 2 twin mounts for the license-built 13.2mm 0.52-inch Type 93 anti-aircraft machine guns, one on each side of the bridge. While the ship was under repair in April 1944, the 2 155mm wing turrets were removed and replaced with 3 triple 25mm gun mounts each. A total of 16 triple 25mm mounts and 25 single mounts were added at that time, giving the ship a light AA armament of 115 guns. The ship's waterline armor belt was identical to Yamato's, at 410mm 16.1-inch, thick and angled outwards 20 degrees at the top. Below it was a strake of armor that ranged in thickness from 270 to 200mm, 10.6 to 7.9-inch, over the magazines and machinery spaces, respectively. It tapered to a thickness of 75mm, 3.0-inch, at its bottom edge. The deck armor ranged in thickness from 230 to 200mm, 9.1 to 7.9-inch. The turrets were protected with an armor plate 650mm, 25.6-inch, thick on the face, 250mm, 9.8-inch on the sides, and 270mm on the roof. The barbettes of the turrets were protected by armor 560 to 280mm, 22.0 to 11.0-inch, thick, and the turrets of the 155mm guns were protected by 50mm, 2.0-inch armor plates. The sides of the conning tower were 500mm, 19.7-inch, thick, and its roof was 200mm, 20.0-inch. Below the magazines were 50 to 80mm, 2.0 to 3.1-inch armor plates to protect the ship from mine damage. Musashi contained 1,147 watertight compartments, 1,065 underneath the armor deck, 82 above, to preserve buoyancy in the event of battle damage.
Aircraft. Musashi was fitted with 2 catapults on her quarterdeck and could stow up to 7 float planes in her below-decks hangar. The ship operated Mitsubishi F-1M biplanes and Aichi E-13A1 monoplanes and used a 6-ton, 5.9 long-ton, stern-mounted crane for recovery. Fire control and sensors. The ship was equipped with 4 15-meter, 49-foot 3-inch rangefinders, one atop her forward superstructure and one in each of her main gun turrets, and another 10-meter, 32-foot 10-inch unit atop her rear superstructure. Each 15.5-centimeter, 6.1-inch gun turret was equipped with an 8-meter, 26-foot 3-inch rangefinder. Low-angle fire was controlled by 2 Type 98 fire control directors mounted above the rangefinders on the superstructure. Type 94 high-angle directors controlled the 127mm AA guns, with Type 95 short-range directors for the 25mm AA guns. Musashi was built with a Type 0 hydrophone system in her bow, usable only while stationary or at low speed. In September 1942, a Type 21 air search radar was installed on the roof of the 15-meter, 19-foot 3-inch rangefinder at the top of the forward superstructure. 2 Type 22 surface search radars were installed on the forward superstructure in July 1943. During repairs in April 1944, the Type 21 radar was replaced by a more modern version, and a Type 13 early warning radar was also fitted. Construction. To cope with Musashi's great size and weight, the construction slipway was reinforced, nearby workshops were expanded, and 2 floating cranes were built. The ship's keel was laid down on 29 March 1938 at Mitsubishi's Nagasaki shipyard and was designated Battleship No. 2. Throughout construction, a large curtain made of hemp rope weighing 408 tons, 450 short tons, prevented outsiders from viewing construction.
Launching the Musashi also presented challenges. The ship's 4-meter, 13-foot 1-inch thick launch platform made of 9 44-centimeter, 17-inch Douglas fir planks bolted together took 2 years to assemble, from keel laying in March 1938, because of the difficulty in drilling perfectly straight bolt holes through 4 meters of fresh timber. The problem of slowing and stopping the massive hull once inside the narrow Nagasaki harbor was met by attaching 570 tons, 560 long tons of heavy chains on both sides of the hull to create dragging resistance in the water. The launch was concealed by measures that included a citywide air raid drill staged on launch day to keep people inside their homes. Musashi was launched on November 1, 1940, coming to a stop only 1 meter, 3.3 feet further than the hull's expected 220 meters, 720 feet travel distance across the harbor. The entry of such a large mass into the water caused a 120-centimeter, 3-foot 11-inch wave that swept the harbor and local rivers, flooding homes and capsizing small fishing boats. Musashi was fitted out at nearby Sasebo, with Captain Kaoru Arima assigned as her commanding officer. Towards the end of fitting out, the ship's flagship facilities, including those on the bridge and in the admiral's cabins, were modified to satisfy Combined Fleet's desire to have the ship equipped as the primary flagship of the commander-in-chief, as her sister ship Yamato was too far along for such changes. These alterations, along with improvements in the secondary battery armor, pushed back completion and pre-handover testing of Musashi by 2 months to August 1942. Service.
Musashi was commissioned at Nagasaki on 5 August 1942 and assigned to the 1st Battleship Division together with Yamato, Nagato, and Mutsu. Beginning 5 days later, the ship conducted machinery and aircraft handling trials near Hashirajima. Her secondary armament of 12 127mm guns, 12 triple 25mm gun mounts, and 4 13.2mm anti-aircraft machine guns was fitted 3/28 September 1942 at Kure, as well as a Type 21 radar. The ship was working up for the rest of the year. Arima was promoted to Rear Admiral on 1 November. Musashi was assigned to the Combined Fleet, commanded by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, on 15 January 1943, and sailed for Truk 3 days later, arriving on January 22. On 11 February, she replaced her sister ship Yamato as the fleet's flagship. On April 3, Yamamoto left Musashi and flew to Rabaul, New Britain, to personally direct Operation I-Go, an aerial offensive in the Solomon Islands. His orders were intercepted and deciphered by magic, and American Lockheed P-38 Lightning fighters shot down his transport aircraft and killed him in Operation Vengeance while he was en route from New Britain to Bellel-Bougainville. On April 23, his cremated remains were flown back to Truk and placed in his cabin on board Musashi. On May 17, in response to American attacks on Attu Island, Musashi, together with the aircraft carrier Hio, 2 heavy cruisers and 9 destroyers, soared to the northern Pacific. When no contact was made with American forces, the ship sailed to Kure on 23 May, where Yamamoto's ashes were taken from the vessel in preparation for a formal state funeral. Immediately afterwards, Musashi's task force was significantly reinforced to counterattack American naval forces off Attu, but the island was captured before the force could intervene. On 9 June, Arima was relieved by Captain Keizo Komura. On 24 June, while being overhauled at Yokosuka Naval Arsenal, Musashi was visited by Emperor Hirohito and high-ranking naval officers. From 1 to 8 July, the ship was fitted with a pair of Type 22 radars at Kure. She sailed for Truk on 30 July and arrived there 6 days later, where she resumed her position as fleet flagship for Admiral Minechi Koga. In mid-October, in response to suspicions of planned American raids on Wake Island, Musashi led a large fleet, 3 carriers, 6 battleships, and 11 cruisers, to intercept American forces, but failed to make contact and returned to Truk on 26 October. She spent the remainder of 1943 in Truk Lagoon. Komura was promoted to Rear Admiral on 1 November and transferred to the 3rd Fleet on December 7 as Chief of Staff. Captain Bunji Asakura assumed command of Musashi.
The ship remained in Truk Lagoon until 10th February 1944, when she returned to Yokosuka. On 24th February, Musashi sailed for Palau, carrying one Imperial Japanese Army battalion and another of Special Naval Landing Forces and their equipment. After losing most of her deck cargo in a typhoon, she arrived at Palau on 29 February and remained there for the next month. On 29 March, Musashi departed Palau under cover of darkness to avoid an expected air raid and encountered the submarine USS Tunny, which fired 6 torpedoes at the battleship. 5 of them missed, but the 6th blew a hole 5.8 meters, 19 feet, in diameter near the bow, flooding her with 3,000 tons of water. The torpedo hit killed 7 crewmen and wounded another 11. After temporary repairs, Musashi sailed for Japan later that night and arrived at Kure Naval Arsenal on 3 April. From 10 to 22 April, she was repaired, while her anti-aircraft armament was substantially increased in the space freed up by removal of the beam-mounted 155mm (6.1 inches) triple turrets. When she undocked on 22 April, the ship's secondary battery comprised 6 15.5cm guns, 24 12.7cm guns, 130 25mm guns, and 4 13.2mm machine guns. She also received new radars, which were still primitive compared to American equipment, and depth charge rails on her fantail. In May 1944, Asakura was promoted to Rear Admiral. Musashi departed Kure for Okinawa on 10th May, then for Tawi-Tawi on 12th May. She was assigned to the 1st Mobile Fleet under the command of Vice Admiral Jisaburo Ozawa with her sister ship. On 10th June, the battleships departed Tawi-Tawi for Batjan under the command of Vice Admiral Matome Ugaki in preparation for Operation Khan, a counterattack against the American invasion of Biak. 2 days later, when word reached Ugaki of American attacks on Saipan, his force was diverted to the Mariana Islands. After they rendezvoused with Ozawa's main force on 16th June, the battleships were assigned to Vice Admiral Takeo Kudita's Second Fleet. During the Battle of the Philippine Sea, Musashi was not attacked. Following Japan's disastrous defeat in the battle, also known as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, the Second Fleet returned to Japan. On 8th July, Musashi and her sister embarked 3,522 men and equipment of the Army's 106th Infantry Regiment of the 49th Infantry Division and sailed for Linga Island, where they arrived on 17th July.
Battle of Leyte Gulf. Main article: Battle of Leyte Gulf. Captain Toshihira Inaguchi relieved Asakura in command of Musashi on 12 August 1944 and was promoted to Rear Admiral on 15 October. 3 days later, the ship sailed for Brunei Bay, Borneo, to join the main Japanese fleet in preparation for Operation Show 1, the planned counterattack against the American landings at Leyte. The Japanese plan called for Ozawa's carrier forces to lure the American carrier fleets north of Leyte so that Kurita's first diversion force, also known as the Central Force, could enter Leyte Gulf and destroy American forces landing on the island. Musashi, together with the rest of Kurita's force, departed Brunei for the Philippines on 22 October. The following day, the submarine USS Daisy torpedoed and sank the heavy cruiser Maya near Palawan. The destroyer Akishimo rescued 769 survivors and transferred them to Musashi later in the day. Loss at Sibuyan Sea. On 24 October, while transiting the Sibuyan Sea, Kurita's ships were spotted by a reconnaissance aircraft from the fleet carrier USS Intrepid. Just over 2 hours later, the battleship was attacked by 8 Curtiss SB-2C Helldiver dive bombers from Intrepid. At 10:27, one 230-kilogram, 500-pound bomb struck the roof of turret number 1, failing to penetrate. 2 minutes later, Musashi was struck starboard amidships by a torpedo from a Grumman TBF Avenger, also from Intrepid. The ship took on 3,000 tons of water and a 5.5-degree list to starboard that was later reduced to 1 degree by counter-flooding compartments on the opposite side. During this attack, 2 Avengers were shot down.
An hour and a half later, another 8 Helldivers from Intrepid attacked Musashi again. One bomb hit the upper deck and failed to detonate, another hit the port side of the deck and penetrated 2 upper decks before exploding above one of the engine rooms. Fragments broke a steam pipe in the engine room and forced its abandonment, as well as that of the adjacent boiler room. Power was lost to the port inboard propeller shaft, and the ship's speed dropped to 22 knots, 41 kilometers per hour, 25 miles per hour. Anti-aircraft fire shot down 2 Helldivers during this attack. 3 minutes later, 9 Avengers attacked from both sides of the ship, scoring 3 torpedo hits on the port side. One hit abreast turret number 1, the second flooded a hydraulic machinery room, forcing the main turrets to switch over to auxiliary hydraulic pumps, and the third flooded another engine room. More counterflooding reduced the list to 1 degree to port, but the amount of flooding reduced the ship's forward freeboard by 1.8 meters, 6 feet. During this attack, Musashi fired Shansikidon anti-aircraft shells from her main armament. One shell detonated in the middle gun of turret number 1, possibly because of a bomb fragment in the barrel, and wrecked the turret's elevating machinery. At 13:31, the ship was attacked by 29 aircraft from fleet carriers Essex and Lexington. 2 Grumman F-6F Hellcat fighters strafed the ship's deck, and Helldivers scored 4 more bomb hits near her forward turrets. Musashi was hit by 4 more torpedoes, 3 of which were forward of turret number 1, causing extensive flooding. The ship was now listing 1 degree to starboard and had taken on so much water that her bow was now down 4 meters, 13 feet, and her speed had been reduced to 20 knots, 37 kilometers per hour, 23 miles per hour. 2 hours later, 9 Helldivers from Intrepid attacked with 450-kilogram, 1,000-pound armor-piercing bombs, scoring 4 hits. The ship was hit by 3 more torpedoes, opening up her starboard bow and reducing her speed to 13 knots, 24 kilometers per hour, 15 miles per hour. At 15:25, Musashi was attacked by 37 aircraft from Intrepid, the fleet carrier Essex, and the light carrier Cabot. The ship was hit by 13 bombs and 11 more torpedoes during this attack, for a loss of 3 Avengers and 3 Helldivers. Her speed was reduced to 6 knots, 11 kilometers per hour, 6.9 miles per hour. Her main steering engine was temporarily knocked out, and her rudder was briefly jammed 15 degrees to port. Counterflooding reduced the list to 6 degrees to port from its previous maximum of 10 degrees. Musashi had been struck by an estimated total of 19 torpedoes and 17 bombs.
Kurita left Musashi to fend for herself at 15:30 and encountered her again at 16:21 after reversing course. The ship was headed north with a list of 10 degrees to port, down 8 meters, 26 feet, at the bow with her forecastle awash. He detailed a heavy cruiser and 2 destroyers to escort her while frantic efforts were made to correct her list, including flooding another engine room and some boiler rooms. Her engine stopped before she could be beached. At 19:15, her list reached 12 degrees, and her crew was ordered to prepare to abandon ship, which they did 15 minutes later when the list reached 30 degrees. Musashi capsized at 19:36 and sank in 1,350 meters, 4,430 feet of water at 13 degrees 7 minutes north, 122 degrees 32 minutes east. Inaguchi chose to go down with his ship. 1,376 of her 2,399-man crew were rescued. About half of her survivors were evacuated to Japan, and the rest took part in the defense of the Philippines. The destroyer Shimakaze rescued 635 of Maya's survivors from Musashi.
Wreck. Discovery. For over 70 years after her sinking, various attempts were made by shipwreck hunters to locate the wreck of the Japanese battleship, but none succeeded. Musashi, like other Japanese warships, did not have its name on its sides, making it more difficult for divers and shipwreck hunters to find her. A research team sponsored by Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen eventually found her after 8 years of searching for the wreck, going through various historical records in different countries and deploying the high-tech yacht Octopus and a remotely operated vehicle to aid in their search. In March 2015, Allen announced that the team had found Musashi under the Sibuyan Sea, some 900 meters, 3,000 feet, beneath the surface. The ship had been thought to have sunk in one piece. In reality, it exploded underwater, scattering debris across the ocean floor. The bow section from the number 1 barbette forward is upright on the sea floor, while the stern is upside down. The forward superstructure and funnel is detached from the rest of the ship and lies on its port side. In the live streaming video tour conducted by the expedition team, a mount for the seal of the Imperial Japanese Navy, a chrysanthemum made out of teak, long rotted away, can be seen amid the debris. The video also showed damage made by U.S. torpedoes, including a warped bow and hits under the ship's main gun. Other items found in the area of the wreck, as well as other features found inside, led maritime experts to claim with 90% certainty that the wreck was Musashi. To further confirm the identity of the wreck, Shigeru Nakajima, an electrical technician on Musashi who survived by jumping overboard after the order to abandon ship was given, told the Associated Press that he was certain that the wreck was Musashi upon seeing its anchor and the Imperial Seal mount. He also expressed his gratitude to the expedition team for having located the shipwreck. Preservation and protection. The discovery of the wreck beneath the surface of the Sibuyan Sea raised issues in the Philippines because the provincial government of Romblon, which has jurisdiction over the shipwreck site, and the Philippine Coast Guard were unaware that Allen and his team had an ongoing expedition in the area, though Governor Eduardo Firmalo publicly welcomed discovery of the ship. In response to the find, the Philippine Coast Guard stated that foreign-owned vessels need clearance from the Philippine Foreign Affairs Department, the Customs Bureau, and the Immigration Bureau before entering Philippine waters. Although discovering the shipwreck was very important to the Japanese people because of the presence aboard of over 1,000 Japanese sailors' remains, the National Museum of the Philippines stated that any further activity pertaining to the shipwreck would be governed by established rules and regulations. The museum pointed out that the wreck site of Musashi, as stated by the law, is considered an archaeological site under Romblon's jurisdiction and was giving priority to verifying the discovery, obtaining and sharing key information, facilitating the protection and preservation of the site, and formulating appropriate next steps.
Footnotes. 4 ships were begun, but only 2 were completed as battleships. The third, Shinano, was completed as an aircraft carrier, and the 4th was scrapped before completion. The amount of sisal rope necessary to complete the curtain was so great that it caused a shortage in the fishing industry. The exact tally in hits is not precisely known. Most Japanese sources report 11 torpedo and 10 bomb hits. Garsky and Dulin report 20 torpedo and 17 bomb hits. And analysis by the U.S. Naval Technical Mission to Japan reports 10 torpedo and 16 bomb hits. Genchura, Young, and Mikkel give a different location of 12 degrees 50 minutes north, 122 degrees 35 minutes east. References. Muir, Malcolm, October, 1990. Rearming in a Vacuum, United States Navy Intelligence and the Japanese Capital Ship Threat, 1936 to 1945. The Journal of Military History, 54, 4, 485. DOI 10.2307 at 1986067. JSTOR 1986067. Silverstone, page 334. Garsky and Dulin, pages 74 to 80, 84. Genchura, Young, and Mikkel, page 39. Garsky and Dulin, page 45. Skulski, page 10. Genchura, Young, and Mikkel, page 38. Sturton, page 178.
Garsky and Dulin, pages 91-92. Skolsky, page 20. Hackett and Kingsep. U.S. Naval Technical Mission to Japan. Ship and Related Targets. Reports of Damage to Japanese Warships, PDF. FisherTrops.org. United States Navy. Archived from the original on 18 October 2013. Retrieved 26 December 2016. Garsky and Dulin. Pages 100, 104, 122. Skolsky, pages 25-26. Skolsky, page 20. Skolsky, page 21. Garsky and Dulin, page 51, 53, 66. Yoshimura, pages 29, 83-85, 97, 109, 115-117. Garsky and Dulin, page 66. Widely, page 216. Stilley, page 42. Padfield, page 285. Palmar and Jenda, pages 420-422. Lacroix and Wells, pages 346-347. Padfield, page 286-287. Garsky and Dulin, page 118. Holtzworth, page 22. Lacroix and Wells, page 347. Pruitt, Sarah, March 17, 2015. World War II's largest battleship revealed after 70 years underwater. A&E Networks, retrieved May 20, 2015. Agents France Press, March 4, 2015. U.S. billionaire Paul Allen discovers the wreck of Japan's biggest warship Musashi. The Guardian, retrieved March 4, 2015. Yamaguchi Marie, March 13, 2015. Japanese World War II battleship Musashi exploded underwater, new footage suggests. Star Tribune, archived from the original, March 16, 2015. Retrieved March 13, 2015. Archived at Ghost Archive and the Wayback Machine. Allen, P.G., March 12, 2015. Musashi Expedition. YouTube. Retrieved March 13, 2015. Philippines not told of battleship Musashi search. ABS-CBN News. Yodo News. March 6, 2015. Retrieved May 20, 2015.